Oh, my goodness gracious. All right, this is the third time that I have tried to make this live stream. If you were lucky or unlucky enough to see the first two attempts, I tried to live stream from the area where I was at. So there is a 7-Eleven at the corner of Stark and 148th here in Portland. And I was actually streaming from that area directly across the street. There is a large homeless encampment in that area. There's a couple of businesses that have actually put up fencing to keep the homeless from going all the way onto the property. So they're basically all set up on the sidewalk and then onto the property of the 7-Eleven, and they've pretty much taken over that whole parking lot. So I've been doing street interviews, going out and talking to people that are in that community, talking to them about, their life, their lifestyle, drug usage, how that all relates to private security, how it relates to personal safety here in the area. And so while I was interviewing one of the guys that was out there, I noticed that the guy that I was interviewing, he like looks off to the side. So I kind of look off to the side and I see this guy approaching me from my left, from behind me on my left, and he has a knife in his right hand, right? So, clearly, guys, I'm always armed. I'm always aware of these situations and the potential for this to happen. But in this situation, like when I first got there and started talking to some of the homeless people in the area, I offered some cigarettes, I offered a couple bottles of water, and we were having a pretty good rapport. But I want to be 100% honest, man. Like where I was set up, I had my back exposed. And that was a stupid thing on my part because I really didn't take into account the fact that this area where the homeless encampment is, not only is it kind of like an L where people are set up, but anybody and everybody can walk around, and at any given time like this could happen. So lucky for me, the guy that I was interviewing, kind of cued in onto the guy, and I stepped off to the side. I had everything set up on a tripod, and I was able to catch that this guy had a knife. It looks like the situation was maybe he's, the shot caller on the block, or maybe he considers himself the shot caller on the block. And so his whole attitude was that I didn't check in with him. So, it is what it is. If you're not familiar with the check-in policy, like certain neighborhoods, certain areas, and this is all over the country, people who are maybe the main facilitator, the main drug dealer in that area, maybe they're the person that's trafficking, maybe they're the person that's, it could be a whole host of issues, right? And it could just be some knucklehead that thinks that he's running shit. But I am going to be honest, like the people that I was talking to, there was 3 or 4 people in that group, and when this dude came over, everybody was listening to him. So maybe he is the shot caller of that block or whatever. So his whole issue was that I didn't check in with him. He didn't know what I was doing, and that it was disrespectful. So how does that play into the conversation? A couple of things. Number one, when you're working in private security, and if you're working in an environment that's similar to Portland, Oregon, where you're dealing with people who are living on the street, it's very important for you to understand street dynamics and street culture. The stuff that I just talked about, people running a block, people being in charge of this like encampment area, people requiring or requesting that if you're in that area, you check in with them. Like a lot of that stuff sounds absolutely insane. You're talking about people that are homeless. Like they don't own shit. They don't own the parking lot. They're in a private business. They're literally located right outside of someone's business, right? But that being said, if you're working in the private security industry, or if you're just an average person going about your business, the fact that you think that that's crazy, or the fact that you think that that's stupid, or the fact that like it doesn't make any logical sense, that doesn't negate the fact that that's the situation, right? So for me, in the situation that I just found myself in, if I would have responded differently to that, if I would have gotten an attitude, if I would have like, tried to boss up in that situation, it could have ended badly. It could have ended badly for me. It could have ended badly for them, right? So I think that it's important for security guards. And again, when I'm talking about anything on this channel, it always comes from the position of private security, because that's what I do and that's what the point of this channel is for. However, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about, it can be applied to your everyday life. And what are we talking about? We're talking about situational awareness. We're talking about street smarts, you know, being able to get yourself out of situations where you don't end up going home with an extra hole or having to hurt or harm somebody, right? So as much as you might not agree with that stuff, as much as you might think that it's stupid, familiarize yourself with it, right? The second thing is, like, when I came into the situation with those guys, like, immediately, you know, I was cool and cordial with everybody. And if you want to see the video, I put up a short. I made a YouTube short and I put it on this channel, and you'll see where I'm interviewing the guy. He looks off and you're going to hear the guy say something to him. And I stop and kind of back up and I'm like, if y'all need to talk, you can. That's when I noticed the knife on the guy, right? And so you're going to kind of hear like them have a little dialogue. The guy that I'm talking to is like, no, he's cool, he's cool. And then I kind of turn as the guy kind of backs off to the side, and I'm like, are we straight? Like, you know, is there a problem between us? Like, are you bad at me or something? Like, I don't mean no disrespect. And that's when he's like, no, you should have checked in, blah, 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 blah. So those couple of things. Another thing is, it's very, very, very beneficial to always keep certain things on you if you work in this environment. Again, I'm talking about a urban environment with a lot of homeless people, a lot of drug addicted people, a lot of criminal minded people. Very, very good to have things like cigarettes, an extra lighter, right? I wouldn't go so far as having like snacks and things like that, but definitely cigarettes and an extra lighter. Those things have gotten me out of trouble many, many times, right? I always try to keep a pack of very inexpensive cigarettes to either give to people when I'm making an approach or to give to people in this situation. And so that guy that pulled the knife, like, once I talked to him and kind of confronted him face to face, not in an aggressive manner, but like just letting him know, like, hey, I do this shit. Like, I'm out here on the street. Like, you're not scaring anybody. You're not plucking anybody. I see that you have a knife and I'm talking directly to you. Like, I'm not in this position where you're going to try and like intimidate me. Very, very important to be able to approach somebody and interact with somebody who's trying to put you in a position where they're trying to intimidate you without crossing that line of disrespect, right? But then once we cleared it up, like, okay, look, I just wanted you to check in. I don't appreciate you coming over here with a camera. I'm like, hey, it's all good. Like, would you like a cigarette, man? Let me get you a couple smokes. Gave him a couple smokes, had an extra lighter, gave him the lighter, and then he sat over there and talked to me for like the next 10 to 15 minutes. Little things like that is understanding street culture. And like, if you understand that dynamic of how to walk that line, that is so beneficial to your job in private security. And it's beneficial to you being able to just navigate situations like this on the street in general. Let me see what we got. Okay. DIY specialist says, do you do bodyguard or site protection? Currently, I do site protection, but I have worked executive protection for news agencies, primarily during the riots of 2020. But right now I work at a standing site. Somebody says, I look like I could be a shot caller at Wendy's. I am a shot caller at Wendy's. Should private security report gang or violent activity off or close to the post? Absolutely. That's a great question. What did we just see happen this past weekend? The attempted assassination of a former president and potential next president, right? The area where the young man or the would-be assassin shot from, that was, just for all intents and purposes, outside the ring of perimeter for the Secret Service. So they had local law enforcement that was working in that area. And then you had other people that were close in proximity to what was happening on that building. They should have had private security making sure that no one had access to the roof. But if you're working private security in the parking lot, you're working private security at the entrance, you have a responsibility to report anything and everything that you see. The first people that came in contact with the shooter were the people that were doing weapons checks into the outer perimeter area. They saw the would-be shooter walking around with a rangefinder, and somebody thought that was very odd that a person that's coming to an event like this would have a rangefinder. Why would they need that? And a smart person was like, no, that's too much of a coincidence. And they reported it. You're asking the question, should private security report activity that's happening close to the site or off the post? You should. But unfortunately, the people that you report that to, whether that's your management or whether that's law enforcement, they might take that information and not do anything with it. However, I think that, in my opinion, I would always rather err on the side of doing the right thing and being on the right side of history for me personally, than to not report something, to not let someone know, and then something bad happened down the road. The people that reported that this guy had a rangefinder, the people that thought that he was being a little bit suspicious by the stuff that he was doing 20 minutes to an hour before everything happened, God bless those people. The unfortunate thing is that, you know, it's been proven, and we saw this weekend, that you can do the best intention in terms of giving information to the right people. They're not going to always take it to heart. They're not going to always do anything with it. But my short answer is yes, you should. Okay. MVC 1757. What is the craziest thing you've seen? October of 2022, working a retail assignment, I get alerted that someone has just been shot in the parking lot. I respond to the location where I was told that this happened, and as I rounded the corner, I looked into the front of what was a Lincoln Navigator, and I could see that the person sitting in the driver's seat, half of his head was missing. That was by far the craziest thing I've ever seen, because I've never seen the inside of a human skull, and I did on that night, and it was very traumatizing. Alejandro, what's up, bro? I work for Allied Universal. My post is at a bank. I've been here a month, and they still haven't provided the bulletproof vest. I would get one, but they're expensive. If you do not have access to a bulletproof vest and you're working a site like that, a couple of things that I can offer in terms of advice. Safe Life Defense will allow you to buy a vest. They'll ship it to you within 3 to 4 days, and they put you on like a 4 to 8 payment plan. Totally worth it. That's number one. If you can't afford to even do that, I would reach out to anybody in your family, see if someone will sponsor you. If that doesn't work, I would contact your sheriff's department, your local sheriff's department, contact your local police department, talk to anybody and everybody that you know on social media, anyone that's a former law enforcement officer, maybe even former military, and see if they will either give you a bulletproof vest to utilize, or loan you one, or sponsor you for one. Another thing that you could do is set up a GoFundMe account. Put up a GoFundMe account on your social media and let people know, I'm working private security. Here's a situation. I have not been given a vest. I'm worried. This is a potential for me to have something nefarious happen to me. You know, would anyone like to donate to this or help sponsor for me to be able to get a vest? And I'm going to tell you, most people will help out with that. All right, so definitely do that. Angel Rays, Trump or Biden? Trump 2024. Yeah, Danny Mac says, remember the saying after 9/11, if you see something, say something. Absolutely. Somebody says, I just bought a good level 3 vest from Bullet Safe for $355, and they do installments as well. There you go. $355 delivered for a set of plates. Guys, you know, before you work in this industry, if you're not being issued a vest, please find a way to get one. Okay, please find a way to get one. It's 2024. There's no circumstance or situation where you should be working at a bank of all places. Like, what is most likely to happen at a bank? You know, it's going to be a robbery, and you're the person that's standing there. Even if you're unarmed, you're standing there in a position to where you're the only person between the person that wants to rob that location and what they want, which is the money. So for you to be working in that environment and not be vested is absolutely crazy. All right, so please find a way to get one. We did a question and answer session last night, and it only lasted about 20 minutes because I had to get home and get quesadillas and beer. So I'm going to leave this up for the next, we'll do another 5 minutes or so. If anybody has any questions that you would like for me to answer, go ahead and drop them in the comment section. I'll give you guys 5 minutes. Let me start a timer on my watch here. So yeah. Danny Mac says that he has an extra plate carrier. He's not offering the plates itself. He's saying that he has an extra plate carrier. And this young man is saying that he could use it. So maybe you guys can link up in the comment section and help each other out, right? Someone says, I just got a vest for my friend who passed when his family was giving away some of his things. Man, sorry to hear about your friend. I hope that, yeah, I'm sorry to hear about that. That's horrible. So just to recap, I was doing body camera interviews for OPSEC Media Group. We're trying to get more street interviews with people. And yeah, while I was out there, large area, had who was told to me to be like the block shot caller that approached me from behind with a knife exposed. And yeah, that could have gone bad. That could have gone bad. So the live stream that I did before this one, the cops showed up. So I had turned on my live stream, and then I turned the camera the opposite direction. The cops had showed up, and I was showing a view of the entire like landscape where they have all of this fencing up, and just the inundation of homeless people. They're absolutely everywhere. They've taken over this entire 7-Eleven, and the people that own the 7-Eleven, there's nothing that they can do. I guess they don't want to hire actual security. It looks like a family-run business. I mean, everybody that's in there looks to be related. And a lot of places here in Portland, they've just kind of given up. We have a Dutch Brothers by one of the locations where I work, and just an entire enclave has taken over the sidewalk there. And you know, this Dutch Brothers would hire security. They would send people out to kind of disrupt the homeless encampment and run people off. And over the last couple of months, it's just grown exponentially. And it seems like Dutch Brothers has completely given up, and it's just like, hey, it's going to be what it's going to be. And that's what it seems like over at this 7-Eleven. This person says, I hope your company comes to Philadelphia. Allied Universal needs competition. There's not going to be any competition for Allied Universal. If anything, Allied Universal is going to get bigger and it's going to get stronger. I'm going to tell you why. The model of private security that you see in a lot of places, Portland is a great example. There's so many companies in Portland that sprang up after 2020. And they really did an amazing job. They answered this call for service that the police had kind of taken the approach that they weren't going to do anymore, right? They were utilizing their response as a pressure point to get the city and to get civic leaders to kind of change their tune and bend just a little bit to some of the things that they wanted union-wise. And the citizens of Portland saw that if you just hire private security, you can have somebody there, you can have somebody respond. You don't have to deal with a lot of bureaucracy. Like it's a very cut and dry transaction. We pay you, you show up, you do X, Y, and Z. We all are happy, right? I don't think that that's good for the police union. I don't think that it's good for you know, district attorneys that don't want to see things prosecuted. And so you're seeing a backlash. You're seeing a lot of effort to kind of cut private security at the knees. And a lot of law enforcement officers don't like private security because they feel like we're able to do that. We're put in a position where we're close to what a normal patrol officer is doing. Clearly not in terms of like traffic enforcement, any sort of like detective work, but just your basic community policing model. They see us as doing a lot of that, and some of us making a very comparable amount of money without having to go through the entirety of the training or be beholden to a lot of the standards that they have to do. So there's kind of a rift between those two industries, private security and law enforcement. Allied Universal offers a very, very low standard of service. They don't train people, in my opinion, by design. They don't look for people who are highly educated, motivated, or looking to do a lot within the industry by design. It's very, very low level service, and it's cookie cutter. They're not going to offer anything that's going to compete with law enforcement. A lot of times their contracts are unarmed. They're not putting people there that are looking to do too much or get too involved. It checks the box of the need to have somebody there. You have somebody to watch a door, to shake a door, and make sure that the insurance requirement is met. But there's nothing about it that's offering any type of service that's going to be either a liability or a competition. So I think that over the next 5 to 10 years, you're only going to see Allied Universal grow, and they're already fully entrenched in the political scene, having a lot of power, a lot of lobbying power, and they're going to squeeze out these young companies and these smaller companies. We're even seeing that here in Portland. Large retailers who potentially can get sued in situations where security is involved. Those retailers don't want to work with a mom and pop company. They want a big box company that has billions of dollars and the ability to take on the liability of lawsuits and any sort of issues that come down the pipe. So, you know, unfortunately, man, Allied Universal is going to be standard across the board. Terry says, my partner yesterday pointed out a man suspiciously taking photos of our post and people, wearing a backpack, face covered with shades. Yeah, definitely report that. Definitely. River Rat says, I love your YouTube channel. River Rat, I love that you're here. Thank you for being a part of what we're doing. What if you're on a state site? I don't know. Report it to your supervisors. We need to start suing Allied en masse. Yeah. Guys, look. We talk a lot about the issues in the private security industry. It's not going to change. It's not. And I think that if you plan to stay in this for any amount of time, if you plan to make this not even a career, but just a job, you have to understand that you're not going to stop the momentum of the way things are going. You're not going to break up Allied Universal. Like this idea that we're going to have some sort of class action lawsuit and it's going to change the way that Allied Universal does business. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And we're not going to change the way that society sees private security. We're not going to change the way that they are going in terms of ultimately disarming the large amount of us, taking away our ability to work armed contracts. That ship has sailed. The gun control issue, the gun control lobby, the people that are anti-gun in a lot of these left-leaning states, they are going to find a way to eradicate our gun ownership. And one clear way that they can do it in a lot of these blue states is to go after the people that utilize a firearm for a living. For the first time here in Oregon this year, we have to declare what type of firearm we're using. What are you carrying? Oh, I'm carrying a Glock 45 9mm, Gen 5. Oh, great. So just write that down on this piece of paper and submit that to your supervisor, and your supervisor keeps a running tally of what people are carrying. And you can only carry that firearm. So if that firearm breaks, the only thing that you can have on your hip at your site is another, Glock 45, 9mm Gen 5. That's a gun registration. If I'm in a database in the state of Oregon as an armed security guard, and you have right next to my name that I have a Gen 5 Glock 45 9mm, you have just created a gun registry. And then they tell the security guards, every gun that you want to be able to carry as an officer, you have to qualify with it and you have to declare it. So if I want to qualify and declare, or if I want to qualify and carry a Glock 19, which, a Glock 45 is a Glock 17 frame with a Glock 19 slide. How different is that from me carrying a Glock 17? How different is that from me carrying a Glock 19? But if I want to carry a Glock 19 and a Glock 17, as well as my Glock 45, I have to declare those 3 firearms. So for me now, I've just declared and put into a gun registry in the state of Oregon 3 of the guns that I own. So now if there's any, issues of constitutionality in terms of creating a gun registry for the average citizen, there's over 30,000 security guards in Oregon. I don't know how many of those are armed, but you see my point, right? So now if there's a gun registry for all of the armed security guards in Oregon, if there's a registry of every gun that I would potentially want to carry as a armored truck driver or operator in Oregon, if I'm a money courier, if I'm naming 3 industries right there where I have to declare every gun that I own, you can see where before you didn't have access to what anybody owned. Now you've got a large number of people where you've got yourself a pretty decent gun registry. That's going to happen in more states. It's like that in California. I'm assuming it's like that in Washington. I don't know, don't quote me. But now it's like that in Oregon. And if you get enough blue states to do something like that across multiple industries, you got yourself a pretty decent registry. And if you're going to go after some people's firearms, now you can say, well, if you make your money working in security, now you can't carry a firearm. And if you want to continue doing that, this is a hypothetical, and I'm going into my, Project 2025 on the liberal side aspect of things. You could say if you want to continue working in this industry, or if you want to work in any industry at the state level, you've got to turn in these firearms. That's something that potentially down the road could happen. All right, I'm ranting. I'll stop. Okay. Half the six. Okay. Someone asked, this is Jake, do you have more power over police on a state site when the site is open to the public? I do not know. I'm going to say no. I don't know of a situation where when you say more power than the police, I think that's a catch-22, because what you're talking about is basically property rights. If you're on a site, let me read this again. Do you have more power over police on a state site when the site is open to the public? So you would be contracted as a security guard working for the state. Police officers show up to that site to do X, Y, and Z. Do you have some sort of authority over them? My answer is going to be no. I think this is one of those questions where I wouldn't even want to touch it, because I have no idea. I don't even know what circumstance that would be. So I'm going to say no. Has Heat says, I just had to declare which firearm I was using here in Philly. Yep, see? The Gray Ghost 1000, can the location that you're guarding tell you to work without a body camera? I had purchased a body camera and had worn it when guarding the location because of the guests and the clients are very confrontational. Absolutely. I have an entire video about body cameras and how easily it is for you guys in private security to get tripped up with body cameras. I know what you're thinking. I deal with confrontational people. I deal with people that might accuse me of something. You know, I want to protect myself. I get it. I get it. Logically, that makes sense. But in practice, it doesn't make sense. And let me explain to you why. Number one, if your company that you're working for says not to wear a body camera, don't wear a body camera. End of story, period, point blank, we're done. Now, let me explain to you some of the reasons why you should not wear a body camera as a private security guard. Short of you being mandated, if your company offers a body camera and they say, this is our company body camera, I want you to wear it.